Welcome to Life by Design, episode 412. Today we're talking about the colossal health myth. That sounds pretty dramatic, and I meant to be dramatic. Is probably one of, if not the, which is the point of the colossal health myth, really is one of the most significant flaws in the way people think about their health. And I want to talk about this today. And for those people who get a chance to listen to this either live or in the replay, this could absolutely, I would even make the case that it would absolutely change your perspective on health. It would also change your perspective on a lot of other things and how you live your life. Given that the group is highly focused around health, we're going to specifically apply it to that. What is the colossal health myth? And it came up in the group, not to, make some, or not, indict somebody for saying something that I disagree with. Obviously, there's, complete openness in this group, and it's one of the great things about the group that we've created here is, lots of people bring to not just the group, but my practice or interacting with us as clients. We all have certain ways we think about our lives, and hopefully most people are open, accepting some of the things that we think maybe they are not actually true. And so that's what the point of this webinar training is today. So what is this colossal health myth? Well, let me tell you what it is. I want you to think about the words when I say them, and I want you to think about whether you believe this to be true. And it's okay if you do, because in reality, the vast majority of people see this as a truth, and it is how they go ahead and live their life. And I'll explain why it becomes a problem. And here it is. Everything in moderation. So think about that. Think about how many times you said that. Oh, well, everything in moderation. Let me break that down for us. And I'm going to challenge this at the extremes. And without getting too deep into philosophy, the way you challenge a principle or an idea is you challenge it at the extremes. Because in the gray areas, in the middle, sure, everything in moderation sounds great. It sounds like a wonderful way to live, and it sounds like a simple, easy philosophy. Hakuna Matata, they say, right? Everything in moderation. And I think more probably said, and maybe a better phrase if what you're thinking is everything in moderation is actually, don't sweat the small stuff. That's really more what you're saying. But everything in moderation is not can actually be extremely significant and have an extremely devastating effect on people's health in their lives in general. So let me challenge this at the extremes. So somebody says to you, everything in moderation. All right, great, sure. Cocaine in moderation. Well, you say, oh, Dr. Jamie, that's crazy. That's not what I meant. I know that's not what you meant. And that's the point. Everything in moderation, if you cannot apply that everywhere, then it's not a principle that you want to be living by. Example, sleep. I'm good with applying that everywhere. Exercise and movement is healthy. I'm good with applying that everywhere. Water is good for you. I'm good with applying that everywhere. Everything in moderation. Well, what about jumping off buildings in moderation? What about smashing into walls in moderation? What about car accidents in moderation? You get my point. Yes, I'm being slightly facetious here, but the point being, everything in moderation is more of a justification. And that's really what it is. Well, why are you getting so hung up over the fact that, this person had a bunch of cookies, or they didn't exercise last week or for the last 10 years. Everything in moderation. It's a justification. And that's what it is. And what it leads to is terrible health results, and terrible results in any area. Because if something is true, it's true. And I'll give you an example. Let's say eating sugar is, let's be honest, not good for you. And large amounts of sugar, it's going to be progressively worse and worse and worse. And so if every day you say, well, everything in moderation, everything in moderation. What's interesting, though, in those cases, everything in moderation when it comes to cookies, but not everything in moderation when it comes to good stuff, like exercise, like spinal checkups, like getting rest. Those things are not only not in moderation, but in many people's lives, they're non-existent. So it's okay to have cookies in moderation, but what about your exercise? I mean, I would take in moderation for most people. I would take doing good things in moderation. A better approach to thinking is taking responsibility. So instead of saying everything in moderation, why don't we say, you know what, those cookies are bad for me, and that's okay, because I'm going to take responsibility for eating those cookies. Now, that doesn't sound nice. It's not all wrapped up in a cliche or a snippet that we can, put on a meme and post it on Instagram. Everything in moderation. But it's the truth. The reality is those cookies are bad for you. And the more I have of them, the more they're going to move me away from health. Yet I am choosing to eat those cookies with the full knowledge that it will have a negative outcome for me. That is a far more powerful and positive way to go about things. Well, you know what? I'm not going to exercise today. Everything in moderation. No, I'm not going to exercise today because I'm choosing not to exercise today. And that's okay. I understand it will have a negative effect, and I'm still choosing that. And where this leads to, and I'll finish on this idea, and I really hope you get a chance to have got this far, because this is such an important concept. If you understood one component, one thought, it's that we have to take responsibility for our lives, and we have to take responsibility for the outcomes in our lives. So if we are not experiencing health, if we are sick, if we are going down the wrong path, some of that, if not a large portion of it, is due to the fact that we've told ourselves everything in moderation, everything in moderation, everything in moderation, and we have not accepted the responsibility for the actions that we've taken, and now we have outcomes that we also don't want to accept responsibility for. Well, I have heart disease, or, I've got diabetes. Please do not feel like I'm personally calling you out. Please do not feel like, I am saying that you are a bad person. I'm simply saying you created that through your choices that led to your actions, and you repeated those over and over and over again. The body has rules, and if you break the rules, you suffer the consequence. And if you follow the rules, you get the reward. And so to tell yourself everything in moderation is simply a cop-out. What I want you to do going forward is accept responsibility for the choices that you make, both good and bad, and acknowledge that there are outcomes and rewards for both of those. And you will accept the outcomes and accept the rewards, and then make new choices from there. That's how we move forward. That's how we change and transform our lives. Thank you for joining the drive to 1 million families worldwide living life by design.